I'm Will Aubrey. It's time for another edition of the Improbability Engine. My buddy Joe Darnell is here with me. And Joe, as always, we start with our moment of what? And I always let you go first, but I'm going to go first this week.
That's okay. Go for it.
You know, you occasionally get mail delivered to the wrong address, and you understand that because sometimes envelopes get stuck together. But I had something happen the other day that just mystifies me. You know how when they'll try to deliver a parcel and you're not home, they leave a note.
Yeah.
And it's handwritten.
Absolutely.
In part, with boxes checked, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I live at 1703.
Okay.
This note is for 1639. So someone came to our house to deliver a parcel intended for someone at 1639. The number is on the house, 1703, and then they filled this paper out and scrawled on it. I mean, how can you be that confused?
In defense of the Postal Service, the people who generally do the certified mail, the stuff where they have to have the signature, they're not generally normal people who make the rounds in your neighborhood. So it could have been somebody new, and it could have been somebody who was just on the wrong block and didn't even look. And that's the part that's bad. But, you missed by a lot, 1639. That's a long way to go. All right, so my moment of what comes from the news. On Monday, a woman in Massachusetts was arrested under suspicion of DUI. Upon further inquiry, she admitted to having a passenger, a bearded dragon lizard that she had hid in her brassiere.
Oh my goodness!
So, just a quick word of caution to all of our bearded dragon lizard listeners: if a woman offers to put you in her bra and take you somewhere, please make sure she has not been drinking prior to.
Reminds me of a funny story. I have a friend who has a little girl, and my friend will occasionally stick money in her bra. Okay? Women do that.
Yeah.
Her little girl, who's like 3, tries to do it, and it falls out the bottom of her shirt, and she can't figure out what she's doing wrong.
Teach your children well, people. Come on now.
All right, on to sports and Murray State athletics.
Yeah, lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff going on. Very busy off season. The first thing I want to make mention of, I actually want to go to Racer women's basketball first. The first signee under the Rochelle Turner coaching time at Murray State University was announced, and if anybody had that former first region coach of the year in high school, Rochelle Turner's first signed athlete would be from Brampton, Ontario, Canada, I want you to come forward because you have won the sweepstakes. The first Racer women's basketball signee under Rochelle Turner is Janica Griffith-Wallace, who is a point guard from Brampton, Ontario, Canada. She averaged 18 points a game, 7.6 assists. From all accounts, a good signee. But I was one of the people that was curious to see if Coach Turner would be able to spread her recruiting prowess far enough wide to really make an impact early on as a Division I coach. Apparently, this was not difficult. She went to Canada and got a prospect. I just find that strange. What do you think, Will?
Well, I'm not surprised. I figured she would do an outstanding job. I believe she's going to do an outstanding job. She has good assistants in Aubrey Reese and Amber Guffey. I was talking to Matt Kelly the other day. He's the assistant athletic director.
Friend of the podcast. At
Murray State. Great guy. And he and I were talking about Amber, and he said, I don't think she ever sleeps. She'll text him something like late at night, and he'll text her back that I'll take care of it when I get up in the morning, and then she'll say, well, I get up early.
You know what? I'm not surprised by that at all. I mean, this is as a player, she was a gym rat. She loved being in the gym. She loved doing the stuff for basketball. Now you've got her in her coaching position where you say, look, your rent's paid, your light bill's paid, your water bill's paid. Go do basketball. Of course she's going to go 24 hours. She loves the game of basketball.
She truly
in
does.
all aspects of it. And I think that's a great hire by Coach Turner. Fantastic knowledge of the game, but also just somebody who genuinely loves the game of basketball. You've got to have that if you want to be a Division I coach of any level.
Murray State men's basketball.
Murray State men's basketball, lots of stuff going on. The recruiting class of 2017 for Murray State, by all accounts that I can see right now, is over.
It's complete.
It is complete.
I talked to Coach McMahon the other day. They're not signing anybody else for next season.
There you go. So you have it here first. There's no more signees for 2017. And I started thinking about it. This is a really interesting recruiting class. The latest signee is Devin Gilmore out of Mississippi, who's a three-star prospect. By all accounts, a combo forward with high leaping ability, played for one of the best high schools in Mississippi. This is a good recruiting class.
Gilmore, kind of interesting. He told Scout.com that he had offers from Ole Miss and Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Now, also the way I found out about that's sort of interesting.
Okay.
And I want to pass it along, to people like me who like doing things that are clever, but maybe they shouldn't do. Anyway, if you go to the Scout.com page, it pops up a story. You can find a story about him on Scout.com, but they want you to subscribe,
Absolutely.
which costs money. And so there's a pop-up, and it kind of grays out the text behind it, so you can't really read the story. But if you click on View Source Code, it'll show you the source code for the page, and if you scroll down, it shows you all of the story.
Oh, you're devious, Will. I'm glad you're on my side. No, this is. I don't want to. It's funny when we talk about recruiting because you don't want to say something that's going to sound bad because I think all of these kids are really good signings. I think this coaching staff has done a great job with all the guys they're bringing in. Gilmore strikes me as a guy who's probably a late qualifier, late getting his last ACT score in, and everybody else kind of fills spots sooner than that, which would make sense that he had interest and offers from Mississippi and Mississippi State. Being in state, being one of the top high schools, the top private high school in the state of Mississippi, and being the best player on that team, you got to know that people from Oxford and Starkville, they're going to be over there looking.
Now, I just want the people out there to temper their expectations just a little bit on all of these guys because every player that we ever recruit is all world until he gets on the floor.
Absolutely.
So I never get excited about any of this stuff. I always want to see them play first.
Absolutely. Well, let me give you some background on all these guys.
Okay.
Because this will give you an idea, not so much of what we think of the recruit, because we know our coaching staff likes them, otherwise they wouldn't offer them a scholarship. So I want to go through the list of recruits and just give you some really brief snippets of information. Okay. Let's start with Demetrius J. Morant. Okay, Morant comes at...
They call him Ja.
Ja Morant. See, I knew I had a 50-50 shot, and I got it wrong. Okay, so Ja Morant. From Sumter, South Carolina. Number 3 player in South Carolina, according to Phenom Hoop Report, which is kind of focused on that area. Ahead of some Clemson, Dayton, and some South Carolina signees. The number 230 in the nation, which is pretty good. Being a top 300 recruit is solid. It's what you want. The scouting report on him, he's a high-level point guard, scores at 3 levels, and sees the floor well, which is what you want to see out of a point guard. The next guy, Tevin Brown, out of Fairhope, Alabama. Number 205th, he's 205th in the nation according to 24/7 Sports, making him a 3-star recruit. The number 39 small forward in the class of 2017 nationally, which is also really respectable. Number 6 in the state of Alabama, according to 24/7 Sports, which is, I mean, that's good, but it's really impressive when you look at the level of athletes in this year's Alabama high school class. They had 2 guys who were top 25 in the country. That's, being in the top 6 there is pretty good. But the big, talk of him, he's a true scorer with a huge wingspan and good size for his position. They have him as a 2 guard or a 3, depending on who you're looking at. But at 6'6", as a small forward, that's really good size, and he's deceptively athletic. One of the newer guys that we've had is Breon Whitley out of Sarasota, Florida. Whitley is the number 25 player in the state of Florida, according to ESPN, and he's a 3-star, number 73 shooting guard in the country. Active player on both ends, good size and strength for position, quick first step. He originally committed to UNCW, where he was their top recruit, but once Kevin Keith left to go to NC State, he decommitted and came to Murray State. So another solid pickup there. Leroy Buchanan. Now, he's a JUCO prospect out of Madison, Mississippi.
They call him Shaq.
He's the number 39 JUCO player in the nation, according to 24/7 Sports. A JUCO All-American. Explosive first step and gifted athlete, and would look to immediately push for minutes at the 3, in my opinion. I think he's probably, of the newcomers, he's the one who's in line to get the most minutes. What do you think about that, Will?
I would say him and Ja Morant would probably be, those two would probably be the ones in line to get the most minutes in the backcourt or on the wing. Anytime you recruit a JUCO, you have to know that they're expecting to play right away.
They are.
And so Anthony Smith, I'm sure, is coming in expecting to play right away.
Well, Anthony Smith is my next breakdown. So Anthony Smith from Suitland, Maryland, went to Potomac High School, which is a stone's throw away from the high school that Wayne Langston went to. Was a JUCO All-District and All-Region. And this is the dark horse into the recruiting class. This is the guy that there's not a whole lot written about him. He had a solid high school career, but he had a knee injury his senior year. He went the JUCO route, and his first year in JUCO was good, and actually his his sophomore JUCO year was good as well, but was really backloaded to the second semester, where he found his scoring game and rebounding very, very well. The report on him, he's a blue-collar post. He does the dirty work on the glass. He did have that knee injury his senior year, but it looks like he's fully recovered. In the last 11 games he played in junior college, now that's also postseason games in the Jayhawk Conference, which is one of the tougher JUCO conferences in the country, he averaged 23 points per game and 9 rebounds per game for Barton County, that's pretty good. The question is, can he make the transition to D1? He's a little undersized. Can he play the post? Can he do the things we need him to do? It's going to be a transition for all the JUCO guys, but I'm curious to see how he shows up, if he's in shape, if he's ready to rock.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to get a look at him. He's described as wiry, and he's 6'6", 6'7".
Yeah.
And it's difficult to tell what kind of leaper he is, because in the highlight videos, you see him dunk, but you don't see anything that makes you go, wow.
Right, which is not the case with Devin Gilmore. Devin Gilmore from Picayune, Mississippi, number 7 player in Mississippi according to Hoop Scene, 3-star ranking according to Future 150. He's a 3-time state champion and 4-time state final appearance player. He ended his senior year going for 29 points and 13 rebounds, which is awesome in a state championship game. And one of the top defenders in his class, according to Future 150. He's an incredible late addition who brings elite skill and athleticism to both ends. I think he's got the most upside, but again, it's really difficult to determine what these guys are going to do. We've had 3-star guys kind of not do a whole lot. We've seen 0-star guys come through and
go to the NBA,
which is all you're looking for. The last one I've got is the preferred walk-on, Zach Hopewell from Owensboro, Kentucky. He was Honorable mention All-State by the Herald in Lexington. Region 3 Player of the Year, averaged 22.6 points, 4.6 rebounds a game. Is a Mr. Basketball nominee and will come in as a preferred walk-on, which I think is good to have. One of the things that it seems like we haven't had in a while is enough bodies, really.
And I know Coach McMahon's really excited about getting him.
You know what? It's hard not to be. I mean, first off, you're getting a local kid, which is always nice. That's always a good thing to have. But you're getting a really good basketball player. I've looked at some of his film. He's pretty good. I mean, you watch him play, you look at him, you go, this is a kid who turned down scholarships for other levels to come to Murray State to be a walk-on. And that's the kind of thing that needs to be celebrated, because that's where you build that character of your team, is by what are you willing to give and give up to be in this position. And I hope the best for him. I think he's got the talent. If he's obviously got the desire to come out here and work. And I think if they do, this core group of guys, there's enough talent on the roster where if guys make progressive steps, there could be some really big things. And here's the thing that's most exciting. 24/7 Sports has their class ratings on the total classes and what each school has, and so on and so forth. Not surprisingly, Murray State is the #1 recruiting class in the Ohio Valley Conference. That's not surprising. Murray State generally is the #1 recruiting class in the Ohio Valley Conference year in and year out. What's interesting is that with these additions, Gilmore, Brown, Morant, Buchanan, Whitley, and Smith, they're the #79 recruiting class in 2017 in the country. And that's according to 24/7 Sports. Where that gets to be interesting is where they're ahead. What teams are they ahead of? I'm going to give you a list of teams that, according to 24/7 Sports, one source, and we all know that recruiting is not a science, it's more of an art. They're ahead of Missouri State, Loyola, Indiana State, Illinois State, Evansville, Drake, Northern Iowa, Valparaiso. They have the #1 recruiting class in the OVC, but they would also have the #1 recruiting class in the Horizon, in the West Coast Conference, in the Sun Belt, or in the Missouri Valley Conference. They would be second in the Mountain West behind UNLV, and third in the Atlantic 10 behind St. Louis University and Virginia Commonwealth.
Quick note, UNLV signed their own Anthony Smith.
Which is odd, right?
Yeah.
If you search Anthony Smith and you say, well, no, he's going to UNLV. No. There's more than one. It's pretty interesting. So there's lots of reasons to be excited if you're a Murray State men's basketball fan. The talent's coming in, and you hope to see some good progression from the returning players. And you're looking at this. And honestly, when you're talking about this year especially, you're talking about Murray State in the OVC. The OVC has some okay recruiting classes. The top 5 recruiting classes in the OVC, #5, Tennessee Martin. They got Paris Hewitt is their star recruit out of Memphis, number 306 nationally in the high school according to 24/7. Tennessee State's the 4th best recruiting class in the OVC. They're led by Dejion Henderson, who's the number 40 national JUCO player, according to 24/7. #3, Jacksonville State, trying to play up their first appearance in the NCAA tournament ever. They're led by Jason Burnell, actually the number 28 JUCO in the country. Morehead State is 2nd with Jaquan McCauley, number 39 JUCO nationally, and Devin Cooper, number 322 high school nationally in 24/7. It's really interesting to see what these teams are doing. I think that this Murray State team has a chance to surprise people.
I know you wanted to talk about projected starting lineups today.
Yeah, and honestly, it all comes. There's so many different variables in this, but if I was to pick today, here's my starting 5.
Okay.
Hawkins at the 1. Now the Townsend transfer, he would be my first choice to be the point guard.
Over Jonathan Stark.
No, Jonathan Stark is the second point guard. He's going to start as well, but Hawkins would be the Bryce Jones in this situation. So a point guard, but probably defends the point guard, whereas Stark would defend somebody else.
So on offense, who's going to play the one?
Yeah, at this point, until someone takes it from him, it's got to be Jonathan Stark. I mean, he's got to have the ball in his hand at this point. Now,
and I look at it from the offensive side first.
Right.
So to me, Stark is the one.
Right.
And I would call his position lead guard.
Gotcha.
And because, I mean, that's essentially what Isaiah Cannon was a lead guard.
Right, especially his senior year. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And then at the two, Byron Hawkins, and I think you're dead on correct about that.
So the three is the open spot on the starting lineup, in my opinion. Lots of returners could try to vie for that spot. You could try to go for more size and go to Ja'Kai Taylor. You could look at some of those guys. My thought is that's where Shaq Buchanan steps in. I think at this point, he's the leader at the clubhouse. Now, what's going to happen is those guys who are returning, they're going to have a head start. They're going to know the offense. They're going to have some more time in the gym and in the weight room to try to make up that gap physically. Because he's a big, strong guy. He's going to be a difficult matchup in the OVC. So he's got my vote for the three. What do you think?
I think that makes sense. The team, all the players are going to be here in June and July and into early August.
Right.
So he'll have a chance to get to know everybody, to learn the system. JUCO players, it doesn't make sense to recruit them, number one, if you don't think they could potentially be a starter in their first year. And number two, they come in expecting to start their first
year. Or
year.
at least get an option to. Now, there is an iteration of the starting lineup that sees the team go with a bigger lineup. And that would be to move Miller, who is a guaranteed starter no matter how you slice it. You move him to the three.
Wow.
Now, before anybody goes crazy and says he's not a three, I challenge you to look at where his offensive touches come. He is, at times, very effective behind the three-point line and can be good on the box as well.
Your question then becomes who's going to play the four?
And that has to go with the late surge in Dupree. I think Dupree has a chance to. I think Dupree's going to start regardless. I think he's taking Sanchez's spot at this point.
Okay.
Just because on the offensive side, he made the biggest leap towards the end of last season. So I think in that instance, you put Sanchez at the four. If Miller's at the three.
Okay, I think you're crazy.
Really?
Yes. Like insane. Off your meds.
So you don't
on LSD.
You don't see a lineup of Hawkins, Stark, Miller, Dupree, and Sanchez.
No. Lord, no.
Why not?
Well, number one, I would probably give you as much as Breon Sanchez in terms of statistical production. He doesn't rebound. He doesn't score. He doesn't really block shots. He doesn't really produce anything. So he, to me, is going to be somebody that fills minutes off the bench.
Here's the problem with that assumption. We have yet to see Breon Sanchez with a full offseason of work. We have yet to see him healthy. We have yet to see him focus because he's always been rehabbing the knee or coming in from high school where he didn't play, he played football beforehand. We have yet to see that full year. He's healthy now. We've seen him progress. He got better in the second half of the season last season. He and Dupree both made giant leaps. Dupree is ahead of him offensively, and I'll grant you that. But I will say to you, if Sanchez does not make that leap and become more where he's pushing for serious rotation minutes, then that's going to be a major detriment to this team.
I think if they go with Miller at the 3, which I also think is insane and they won't do. But let's assume for the sake of argument that Coach McMahon's taking the same LSD you are, and they play Miller at the 3, then Anthony Smith will be the 4, and Jalen Dupree will be the 5.
And that's not crazy. That's the best part. The best part about moving Miller to the 3 is you play him facing up. You also put him on a smaller guy, which means that at any given point you can move into the box, and now the one teeny nitpicky negative that you have with Miller is that he's not a great elevator. Well, now physically he's going to be much bigger on his guy, and he'll be able to go and score at will using the offensive prowess that he showed last year. He also has the ability to step up. He becomes a serious matchup problem. The svelte, the quick, the good first step Miller on the 3 now becomes a much different player, and I think that changes how teams have to play us defensively.
I think
also takes pressure off of him from the foul line standpoint, because he wouldn't be defending the post scores where fouls just seem to happen every 30 seconds.
I think Terrell Miller will play the 4. He'll be a stretch 4. Shaq Buchanan will probably be the 3, unless Ja Morant is just so good that he forces his way into the starting lineup. He put up video game type numbers, and it was just insane.
Yeah.
I see him as the 6th man, but if he forces his way into the starting lineup, then I could see Stark, Morant, and Hawkins at the 3 guard spots, and then Miller and Dupree inside. But I think it's going to be Buchanan at the 3, like you said.
I think there's a couple different ways you could go. If Morant is pushing his way into the starting lineup, what you're seeing is the ultimate OVC lineup. The OVC has always been a guard-dominated league. If Morant pushes his way on there and you're playing 3 point guards and 2 posts, then what you've got is the ultimate OVC lineup. You've got 3 guys who can break down their defenders on the perimeter and get to the basket. John Stark, we know what he can do with the ball. Now you're giving Morant the opportunity to play off of Stark. Hawkins can do the same. Both can dribble, penetrate. I think that's something that you could look at going. If you go small, that's a great lineup because it's really dangerous. The standard lineup, I think, is Buchanan at the 3 at this point, unless somebody takes it from him. That gives you the best kind of middle of the road. You keep Miller and Dupree down low. You got Buchanan with some size and the ability to take a guy off the dribble and athleticism to guard that position while also having the finishing at the rim ability. But you also keep the ball in John's hands out in the perimeter as well.
One edge that I think this year's team will have is the best players on the team will also be the seniors and the leaders of the team. And I think that sometimes, and I think they got caught in a situation like this last year where the best players were the juniors and the seniors were the leaders, and they thought they should be getting the shot.
Right.
And there was some conflict and friction there. So I do like the makeup of the team from that standpoint this year. Did you have some other things?
Yeah, we've got just some more local news. Murray High has announced their girls basketball coach, and it's going to be Wyatt Faust, formerly of Owensboro Catholic High School, but also the former head coach at Notre Dame Academy, where he had a 54-34 record. He'll look to take over an absolutely loaded Murray High girls team that's coming back this year and looking to do some damage, not just in the 4th District, but also in the 1st Region. Murray High and Callaway both have vacancies in their boys' teams. I think if Dior Curtis, and I'm going to say this again because I'm going to keep saying it, if Dior Curtis is not the head coach at one of those 2 teams, both search committees have failed. You've got a guy who's an absolutely great basketball mind, a good guy, and would be a star in the making as the head coach of those 2 teams.
Now, keep in mind, I have no inside information. Okay?
No, they didn't grant it.
But I heard a rumor that was not well placed the other day.
Okay.
That suggested that Rob Cross might be the Callaway hire.
That's not a terrible hire. I mean, look at what look at what Murray did when they hired. Oh my God, I just blanked.
Rob McDonald?
No, when they hired the last boys coach, former girls coach at a smaller school, comes in. He has a lot of success. He coaches well. He knows the fundamentals of the game and can teach it. That would be a great hire. It's kind of off the wall, but I think that would be a good one, and he would follow in the footsteps of another former Murray State head coach in Ron Green, who during his retirement years decided he was going to coach high school ball and did so at Callaway and Murray both.
Any other local stuff?
No, at this point we are all waiting, but we've got our ears out. Some interesting things going on that we'll keep you abreast of, and I look forward to coming and talk to you about it next week. What do you got?
Well, I would like to talk about this. I came across this post on Facebook, and I found it interesting, and it lists several sports. You pick your favorite athlete in each sport.
Yeah.
NFL, for me, Terry Bradshaw.
For me, favorite NFL player to watch, Barry Sanders.
I can see that. Good
Just
choice.
a lot of fun on a really bad team. Every Thanksgiving was great because Detroit was going to lose, but Barry Sanders would have 130 yards.
NBA, and this was tough for me because I was a big fan of Larry Bird, a huge fan of Bill Laimbeer, Dennis Rodman.
Mine's Michael Jordan, and I know that's kind of passé, but I used to just love. I wanted to see what he'd do next.
Well, Dennis carried him to 3 of his championships.
Right, that's who did it.
No, what I always loved about Dennis.
John Paxson gets claim on one of those.
From what I always loved about Dennis is he'd get 8, 9 offensive rebounds, sometimes 12 or 15 offensive rebounds when he was getting 30 total. And take one shot. And I was always a shooter, so Dennis, I would love to have him on my team because he'd be throwing it to me.
Stay in your lane guy of the team. That's all right.
WNBA, Diana Taurasi.
Lisa Leslie.
I like Taurasi better. Major League Baseball, Reggie Jackson.
Bob Tewksbury.
Bob Tewksbury.
Yeah.
An unusual choice.
Okay, so he was the star pitcher for the Cardinals when the Cardinals were not very good. And here was a guy, okay, so you have to understand my lack of athleticism.
Right.
I am not athletic. I never was. I played baseball because I love the sport, but I was not great at it. I always wanted to pitch. Not because I had a good arm, but because I just loved that idea of being on the mound and pitching. And to me, Tewksbury was the perfect guy to emulate because he threw about 84 miles an hour, but he threw the ball right where he wanted it. Now, people will say Maddox, and they're right. Tewksbury's a poor man's Maddox, granted, but Maddox was never a Cardinal, so I didn't watch him. Tewksbury was my guy.
Interesting thing about Bob Tewksbury, I play Stratomatic baseball, and I had him on my team one year, and he had a good ERA. He gave up a lot of singles. He did not give up home runs, but he gave up a lot of singles. Well, I had a ballpark that didn't allow home runs, and a buddy of mine had a ballpark that was very home run friendly. Well, I wound up having to trade Tewksbury because the guy who gave up a lot of singles was really bad in my park. And I could take a guy who gave up a lot of home runs because in my park you couldn't hit home runs.
No, the funniest part about that, and my favorite player of all time was Ozzie Smith, but I loved watching Tewksbury. The thing that I loved about Tewksbury is he didn't walk people. So few walks. I mean, yeah, guys got hits off of him because he threw BP speed. But he moved the ball around, he changed speeds, he changed locations, and he never walked anybody. And that to me was always the ideal. If you could just not walk anybody, you can be really good.
NCAA basketball, for me, it's Darrell Griffith.
For me, it's probably Tony Easley.
Okay.
Tony Easley, he was the first guy that he's around my age. He was always so good with the fans. To this day, he is fantastic with fans. And just a great guy all around. Loved the way he played his senior year. That, to me, epitomized a guy who got everything out of his talent and gave it all for the team. You can't ask for much more than that.
Gerald Griffith's 6'4" guard at the University of Louisville led them to the NCAA title in 1980. He had a 48-inch vertical, which was just freaking incredible. NCAA women's basketball, Amber Guffey, and a close second would be Shoni Schimmel. But Amber Guffey, she was like Shoni Schimmel, and she was here, and I got to watch her in person, and I got to play against her. Phenomenal player.
Absolutely. I think that's a pretty good one. Although I might say Paige, just to be that
well,
guy.
and you know, I also got to play with both of them, and they were so kind to me because we were playing, and of course they were better than I was and better than anybody else on the team, but they would occasionally throw me the ball and let me shoot a three. They'd say, "Get you one, Will."
And that's why they would be your favorite, because anybody who passes you the ball and tells you to shoot the three.
Yeah, anybody who does that, they got to be way up there. And, you know, the thing about Paige that I thought was so cool is Paige had my conscience when it comes to shooting, is she never met a shot she didn't like.
Absolutely.
And when she, you know, until she was a senior, she didn't get to play nearly as much as Amber, and it was like she was trying to score as many points in her 10 minutes as Amber was getting in her 30.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Who you got next?
Okay, next, NCAA football, a guy that most people have never heard of, Howard Stevens, who was like sixth in the Heisman voting in 1972, I believe. He was a running back from the University of Louisville, was a running back and kick returner for the New Orleans Saints in the NFL.
Well, I like his pro team.
He was little. He was like 5'8", and you couldn't find him.
Well, you know what? My guy is actually David McCann, the fullback out of Elizabethtown who went and played at Murray State, had a cup of coffee with the Giants in the NFL, played on those Houston Nut teams that were so dominant. A good guy. Actually, when he came back to Murray State to get his degree, I actually had class with him, and I got to tell him about one of the greatest moments of my Murray State Racer football fandom was at SEMO. He came around the outside, and a SEMO defender came up, and I watched him lower his shoulder and fold the defender up. He just dropped him and got 4 or 5 more yards. And at SEMO, the play is really close. I mean, it's a lot closer than a lot of the other stadiums where there's a track or something between them. So to be that close and to watch him just fold a guy up on the edge, I was like, this is the greatest player I've ever seen. You know, being a kid, that was a lot of fun.
Horse racing.
Horse racing. The Grand Chahi.
What?
When I was a kid, there was a movie called All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Okay.
And they were talking dogs who were trying to make some extra money, and so they go to the horse track and they're talking to the horses. And so they're talking to the horses, and the horses were talking, and they're like, do you know what today is? No, what is today? Today's the Grand Chahi's birthday. And the Grand Chahi's the longest of long shots, 58-1, something just ridiculous. And all the front runner horses take off running, and the Grand Chahi's in last, and he's never going to get a chance. And they all look at each other and say, it's Grand Chahi's birthday. And so right at the last minute, they all come up short, and the Grand Chahi wins. That's my favorite horse racing moment.
Zenyatta, and Zenyatta only ever lost one race in her career. She was generally last for a long time and then would make a huge stretch run to win the race. She won the 2009 Breeders' Cup Classic.
That's similar to how I run track, except without the burst at the end.
She finished second by half a nose in the only race she ever lost in the 2010 Breeders' Cup Classic. And get this, she had won every race before that, and she was used to going to the winner's circle. Because she wanted to go to the winner's circle. She was like, that's where we go.
This is what we do after a race. You guys give me flowers or something, and that's where I go.
Boxing, Muhammad Ali.
I never got to see Muhammad Ali. He is one of my heroes. He's a fantastic boxer, a true humanitarian as well, and one of the heroes of the state. And it has to be mentioned in those reps. You have to say it that way. Probably my favorite boxer, Sugar Ray Leonard. Growing up
I
as a kid,
despised him.
Sugar Ray, he was fast and he was smooth.
I was for Roberto Duran and Tommy Hearns.
Of course you were. And the thing with Sugar Ray is that he just moved so smooth. He was like a miniature Ali.
I know.
He had power, and he had quickness, and he was elusive. I don't think I ever saw him really take a shot. I mean, that's hard to do. And you say the same thing about Muhammad Ali against some of the greatest fighters of all time. I've watched film of Muhammad Ali, and I don't think I ever saw him get punched.
All right, I'm going to have two in this next one, and I'm betting you probably don't have one.
What's it going to be in?
Track.
I bet you I do have one.
I've got two. Carolina Klüft, heptathlete, gold medal winner. I thought she was just so cute. I mean, number one, she was a pretty blonde, but number two, she was just cute in a really girly way that you don't expect from athletes. I thought she was great. And then 800-meter runner Dave Waddle. Google him. He ran the way Zenyatta runs. He would be at the back, and then in the last lap, come and circle everybody and win the race.
Well, the two that I would go for track and field, the first for the female side, Jackie Joyner-Kersee. A lot of fun to watch her run, the open hand with the long nails, and just flying. My God, that woman was fast. And was fast. I guarantee if you put her on the 1,600 meters, she'd win the 1,600 meters. She's that fast. She's an incredible track athlete, one of the ones that were cultural icons that were a lot of fun to watch. And on the men's side, going back in time, Steve Prefontaine, more for the story of how he almost was than what he actually did. Of course, died in a car accident before he could go to the 76 Olympics. Never really got to run his race in 72 because of the terrorist actions in Munich, and always had that what could have been air. Also instrumental in the development of Nike and Nike shoes at his time at the University of Oregon. Just a cultural additive icon. So when I see track and field, I think Jackie Joyner-Kersee, and I think Steve Prefontaine.
And that brings to a close this edition of the Improbability Engine.